Dug the old tweet up, huh?
We will learn. Apes will learn. I will learn. And I will conquer.
I think the key thing that have made Planet of the Apes movies last as long as they have is that they're always great conceptual conversations about humanity, right? Ultimately, they're apes, but we really see ourselves in them, and the choices they make, and the mistakes they make, and the ideals that we want to live up to, all that great stuff. But also, starting from the '68 version, it was at that time the best makeup effects that have ever been done. So there's this spectacle of going to the movie theater and seeing something you haven't seen before. And of course, in the last three, starting in 2011, when Rise came out, when they were really charting new territory with the CG ape, and proved that it could be done, it was just astounding. And then in Dawn, of course, the huge leap, I think, forward that Dawn had, where it's like you just could not believe these apes are real and they can talk, and it was just mesmerizing. And so we're trying to follow in that tradition, and blending that kind of spectacle and truth. That's what we try to do in this movie. It's one of the few kind of blockbusters, I think, that is kind of a thinking person's blockbuster, is what we always say.
Say his words! Apes together! What a wonderful day!
Yeah, I was finishing up another project that ultimately got canceled, and on that project I was working with Matt Reeves and Andy Serkis, actually. So I'd been peppering their brain about their experience of working on Planet of the Apes the entire time, and then the studio came to me and asked, what would you do with the next Planet of the Apes? And I had to think about that for a bit, and I wasn't sure that it was right, but ultimately what we set out to do was try to come up with a story that could stand on its own, to be its own story. We weren't just trying to draft off the previous three movies that were so successful and so beloved. So we found that, we thought. We had an idea that involved a big time jump, that didn't require us abandoning that series of movies with Caesar. And so we found, I think, a good story that kind of allowed us to do a new beginning. It's a group of characters that are setting out and discovering a world for the first time, and when we kind of started down that road, we got really excited. We felt like it had a reason to exist, this movie, on its own. And but we still got to honor and respect kind of what came before, but also, in a weird way, this movie is a sequel and a prequel. So we were sort of heading towards that 1968 Charlton Heston movie. And so how could we exist in kind of both worlds? It was kind of the challenge and the fun part of us trying to figure something out, story-wise. Obviously, these movies have been around for 55 plus years. There's a long legacy of these movies. And I think we hopefully have kind of found our way to exist amongst all those, this long, tradition of Apes movies that are both kind of thoughtful and spectacle driven.
Apes hunt humans. That is wrong.
One of the hardest things on these movies is surely the craft aspect of making these movies. They're just unlike any other movie out there. You've got the normal challenges of making a movie, a live-action movie, with the sun's going down or the truck gets stuck, and just the usual things of making a movie. But there's this added component of this incredibly tedious and complicated and rare process of the CG and converting actors' performances into completely synthetic CG creations on screen by really, really talented artists at Weta in New Zealand. So that process was just unlike anything I've ever done before. It was quite a learning curve, but obviously, I'm working with the best visual effects artists, craftsmen in the world, and they really helped kind of really, bring this thing to something that was special.
Legend says ape and human lived side by side. Impossible as that may seem.
Why do they hunt her?
She's smarter than most.
2010 you tweeted, since I could never even hope to have the chance to direct it, the next big mocap Avatar-like movie should be The Legend of Zelda. So how do you feel now that you get the chance to do that?
You dug the old tweet up, huh? Yeah, Zelda's a dream come true for me. I'm really looking forward to what we have planned. That's about all I can say until we have something more to say about it. But it's obviously it's an incredible honor to kind of be a part of that story that means so much to so many people, myself included. And so looking forward to bringing that Ultimate to the screen. You know.